Madam, good morning.
Good morning.
Bajo bako de.
Bia bako nyami adum.
E wo twi microphone ben wo kakra me ni beji papa. Yeah. Yansaka ye mame Joyce Bawah Mogtari. Edi ni mpacho mabodi ye.
Pepe.
Because ya na ye body Mogtar. Enye Mogtar. Then
Mogtari.
Osire no sister sire pepe. Me can say anani nuaba ne former Minister of Gender and Social Protection. Unu nua ntem boko de.
Bia boko.
Bia kama ni din komo no so sansen bia kama pa. Anapa ye share His Excellency former President John Dramani Mahama to ahodo a wakokọ okoni adea. Wakwa regions be say as we speak.
We're 12, so we have 4 more outstanding.
What is the main purpose of this listening tour?
Oh, nim say it campaign de say be simwa ehia say wo be chi krom ha nyina na woni nkrofo bon komo so that wo be bisa nema ehia. And whilst you are even asking and listening to them, you also see for yourself, because we call constituencies now, we have 275 of them now, and yeah, easy. Nte idea say we a presidential flag bearer for any political party, or say we call the length and breadth of the country. We share nipa to the people we share no chrome we share danye NDC for what I say. We people from all walks of life. People cry MP for, and so you share. Ye didn't kita who say baby wa ye share ahini for ni ahini mane, you know, stakeholders nyina, nurses, doctors, lawyer for professional bodies no nyina. Okay, say even answer no best start to no crowd ko share TUC any AGI e won cry ha. Until we be meeting various bodies bebree across the length and breadth of the country, and so far the visits have been profound. They've actually resonated with each and everyone who's encountered us. Now, me say, now we are Greater Accra. It was a fantastic encounter.
Starting crying
from Anapa. Kuspime nyumre ye kuspime ye ashaiman na wo hwe dodo no omo abegina ho obia pese obusa question. I may say to the be cry we have to end the conversations because omo bebre we cast any pan static queue no we hwe na be 10 people 15 people obia wo question pese obusa na wo hwe trade associations no me say na me ejuma fafa port wansem nti na kane no ye na no ye kotema na wutie Maritime and Dock Workers Union, wutie Ghana Freight Forwarders, wutie sa groups no nyina Q-Bag, logistics companies nyina wutie omonsem we be ho unim se de bia ye sorry a ye dwin se ejuma no nipa ba ko betimi aye, but it's not possible. Na ye hwe so a se o man penyin dada fi so a na foforo no ba na no so in different conversations so be see emu na wo hwe adwuma no na kane no o mampanyi dada eye ema krom ha obehu se na enhye da nya de a enye papa na me say perfect government de me hwe bebia ye be but utimi hu government e ba o effort a odwe nipa ho asem a ohwe nyoma obi abeya ebe boa oman yi nyina na me sister me say wo hwe nyoma ehia nyina se enye NPP kwa ne ya no NDC for ka ho ebi kura wo mo nya political oti ase so ehia omo na me say wo hwe krom ha ejuma ho asem a ayedin pa say young person benya ejuma, not just ejuma but a job that is worthy.
Then we go deeper into
us no dear. They've been very revealing. Share baby a kwa kwaya na ye start Ekow see almost the 10 million cedis Ekow year audit. Na me say audit report no cry some the ba bontima ya hwe mu kra. Obientie anwasembia. And so look at the way people were lambasted, berated, criticized for no apparent reason. Na me say na obedwe ho senka omudi sa 10 million no kra ko hwe sa audit no. Nkomu ko continue sa ejuma na senka nyedi. Ukonko Bruno areas bia kwan be a start here mining company age or Eddie marching fund so Eddie ma finance ministry say a corporate social responsibility ni ye pese adwuma no kwan no ekoso sika no me say abanje ye bese ne
wedi
ye obi anim say adwuma no kwan no a omonye say adwuma no say ombeto aso a omagya esi ho say ombetwero kra ka kire nkofo say o ebia for this reason or that reason ntimi adwuma no kra
basika no wo ho na ebia nyanto aso ye be ye
ntimi hu ne esi a adwuma no nkoso and that is the case in most places na me say she eastern corridor she be bia na kwan no akodu kwan no adwuma no omagya ye no can you imagine what it looks like today she investment ekumu she taxpayer sika ekumu oh called the boy are the same na contractor gusu oh ye juma omo buy omo sijai ye koye audit ye wie audit na wa be ye juma
we na e Ekow road ho asem na okay
ni nyina besene ejuma ni nyina aka ho enti Ekow road no ambaso Ekow no kra na edida ho a ye kofafa a ye kakaka omo se mahama anya de na Ekow throughput yi cargo throughput of about 800 tons enye omo be ba be ye say na omo kwakoye partnership with Abidjan okay ni nyina ene akosi Ekow bode si ho ene ka omo abon kwa is mind boggling billions of cedis for the first time cross indicated lo mbenya omo brefo na me wo say companies no mo che cocoa beans kra ambenya dia ejuma muntimi nti we share the reason why there was a need to construct Ekow roads now you can see the ramifications today nka kwan no baso omo ye ne se ne ehia hwe ejuma nka beba se omo ye Ekow no nche da nya ndi senior MPP nkwa omo ye Ghana for. And I like people who speak along those lines say it's very, very necessary. Say Ghana for no mudo Ekow. Nti se kwan be ye I be cocoa farms and our cocoa growing areas they are Ghanaians too. They deserve it.
Matiti sika bem.
Na me
na mo dey enti mo hwehwem.
Sika mo ye tete a mo hwehwem ayedwuma koso. Na sika mo tete a mo di ne nyafo a edwuma no enkoso. Which one would you rather have? Na audit no nka yampa se sika no omo tete so a me sure say nka me ni o ye ntwen say result no beba ka by now report no da be bia omo di ni na mo etwatwa ntro wo Ghana nti report no wo he sika na omo di start here no wo he ejuma na ekoso no wo he contractors no mo ye ejuma no mo ye Ghana for nkofo no mo ye all the other logistical chain e wo ejuma no they were Ghanaians too nti mu ja ejuma no akosi sen. Has the cocoa industry improved? Has cocoa output improved? Has the companies within the cocoa industry, have they improved? Has the economy that is cocoa economy, has it improved in any way in the last 7 years? Go and ask them. Talk to them. This is where we are.
The truth is that we are having challenges there in that industry.
Deep, serious challenges.
So in spite of all these challenges, would you say that John Dramani Mahama has been vindicated by this government?
You see, I don't like to call it vindication, but I want to say that John Mahama was not doing anything wrong for Ghana. He was doing right by the good people of Ghana. I think that is what is very important. And on many reasons, check most of the processes that were criticized very heavily. What do you think the reasons were? Let's look around us. Let's start asking ourselves the questions. I've heard recently about SML. Have you seen the audit report? We're still waiting. How many weeks later? You heard about what they spent on Ajapa alone. And apparently $12 million, my sister, is just what we've been told. There's many other sums that have been expended. Where is that project now? A project that your own Attorney General told you was unacceptable, was wrong, and should not even be done. You know, look, it is not about human beings.
Maybe could be so
challenges we now in some way now ba Mahama yet in sema so the NPP in some can fa Mahama ho enna nyame adom omutumi nya tumi no mo de ba betra konwa so now, so they are not able to do exactly what they said so na komba be ye etenam bisa say so Mahama nanado assign Mahama tiana.
You see, I have no doubt in my mind that Ghanaians are very discerning.
Bisa uchi wadaro.
Me who say And Papa ube mommy.
I remember tree na ba.
I was saying because she school pa. Captain Smart is here. I remember all our tree lessons. David.
O jatu to me bube nyina.
Oh no de oya de o. She ga. Oh yes, Gonja Hausa Dagbani oya de pa. Oni se mbeka tree na o se me dwen
asem no na de akotwa
and then me person may mistake and I may you see wrong phrases and sometimes bear with
what
me.
the fry nyeshi.
Auntie unim say bibia ye dream. What is it we are all worried about? What are we interested in? Ye pejuma. Ye hiya sika. Ye hiya comfort be infrastructure health and no say me mommy 85-year-old otifie me drew feel say oh nana look at the screen, have you seen them? Me say there, I say oh Comfort Noche Teaching Hospital, and there was this old lady in a wheelchair and just begging the doctors to come back to work. Inti baby a doctor for crabeda. If you kitty omu renovate crowd. Ni na ye toton. Inti ye baya na say ye koye. Na me say Mr. Mahama. Enya di obeton aban fie da edi amobi. Especially aban fie air for teacher, nurse, omo ehi omo pa, doctor, judges, minti bida. Na judges fear for crimes Mahama see ye government see ADC ho. Say ye go to nyina na de $540 million akoshe ho say ye BC cathedral. My sister, enya dia me na make because I am NDC and now because I speak for Mr. Mahama. They be just look at the history over the last 7 years.
Yeah, very right. Mami, miss out one major question people ask. Almost your man penny Abedi vice president. In fact, where the minister, why your swap folder, why your MP paying, where the vice, Fofi and Tuata, the president free move, where the president Kakra, Ghana for Tuabama, no man, 4 years a cap Kakra no. Ne then that jubilee award here. That is the question they ask.
I wonder why they ask. She in that jubilee, Ghana for ne here or Mampenia or Dogomo. Individual or patriotic or nationalistic. Nipa Ghana in sem edana komaso. Now me say 7 years am Mahama fie akonya iso. What in some mukani na when bako that has come out to be validated, to be verified, authenticated. Debi now Mahama there or a very modest man.
And some what can it be? Almost say a Mary Power deal. Sika Ekow mo 510 million. Almost say Sada confirmed to Omo Mai. Almost say Jida. Almost say Isophoton. Kumasi Airport. Takrady Railways. Atuabo Gas. Sugar Factory. 2 Power Badge. Almost say Bus Rebrand. Rotary Park. Adome Bridge. Bridge in the FN. Some ketwa.
Me say. Send the one kasa waka.
Lego Hospital. And also
na Ridge Hospital. Say na no munya COVID nya ho no mkoda.
Na say wonim say ansa na COVID crab na mo say hospital na ni ho. Na mo say entra na ya atwa did a green book mu. Na COVID ba e den na see. Afi dey say ho e VIP for there. You see, yes, let's be honest. Me say bas ban no wani ma wabon nyina fa ni nyina put it together. And intro mo di ka ho nyina. America na e wo he.
Kumasi.
Exactly.
Eni Kumasi.
Me say Ekow Kumasi.
Enye currency.
Enye si hoko.
Ekow Kumasi but enko.
Na American tro mucha eni nyina Ekow Parliament for the extension of the facility. Did they try to make even an apology or express any remorse about the lies they had told? They be wonu say na me chere no nyame de se wo ye de ne wakuma fita na yampa. No matter what, eventually you'll be vindicated. That is where we are now.
So that is the reason why I asked that question.
Yes, because vindication lies in the womb of time. If Mr. Mahama hadn't left office, if he hadn't gone into opposition, how would these conversations come up?
Onua 95.1 FM.
Now me say, we share corruption stories and public accounts committee inquiry once ma. Now me say procurement. CEO nkasa me say G. Sika say na idana account after one procurement process. Yes, procurement enye sole source nenye. Based in there apart from single source projects, me say my sister, neoma within nyina. How many of them have gone to any competitive tender of any sort or kind? Nyina start counting. Na neoma mokaka we nyina me say na bibi to say bas brand afi kra uti won sem kra na you wonder Why did we even have to go through all that? Ford Navigator. Why did we have to go through all that? Ameri, car power, Nina, why do we have to go? Now, must see excess of power crying here. And sorry, it's the lights off. And so then, Omokai, almost is Adam so way different from Mahama day. Now, Mr. Maybe say, Mahama Gina switching or light no on and off. And now, to fear now, all doom light no. And now you say Mahama and Onua Kasabeti me done in Hokani Amaya, so that we will not lose businesses, we will not lose even any lives or whatsoever. Don't you believe that this is a man who will offer you that? Me say, Doomso had absolutely nothing to do with Mahama or the NDC personally. Climate change had happened under President Kufuor. If you remember, we had very senior most pastors who went to the Akosombo Dam to call on the good Lord to let it rain. We used to have crawlers on television stations telling us the water levels so that all of us will be cautious and reminded to save energy so that we can save Akosombo Dam. Then he went and acquired Bui. Have you ever heard that Bui has added anything to the national grid? Indeed, the owners of the land even want their land back because it's absolutely not working. How did we criticize Kufuor? Even then, Reku Bobby, who was part of that administration, told us that the machines, the equipment that they had imported were toys, and that they couldn't power any lights or keep any lights on. But you see, at the time, the NDC understood that we were going through a crisis, that nature was literally punishing us for how we were polluting our water bodies, and that the rain patterns were changing due to climate change. So it was important for us to do what? To think about sustainable power generation. Mr. Mahama introduced solar, for example, even advocated for people who were using solar to be able to get off times from the national grid, and that if you go on solar, for example, your bills will be lower, and that you could connect even to the national grid so that at least your bills will go down, and industries could actually invest in solar systems. That was a fantastic policy. How did our opponents at the time support it? Then we came down to the very crippling crisis. What were we supposed to do? We had never ever secured the services of independent power producers. And but Mr. Mahama, any more advising on the time, experts who say I'm pet sustainable solution. Can you know the intimate sobio? Until independent power producers now, they will augment national grid no. And apart from that, you can also bypass hydro, which was what we were largely dependent on. My sister, it's not easy to run a developing country. Budget wants them, Sika wants them, we are coin, we are roads, we are hospital, we are buses, we are schools. All of these things at the same time, not having this huge power crisis. Sure, industries are no more brain. So, we see under Jerry Rawlings, now Northern region, we were not part of the national grid. Now Upper West region, no more very good surgeon. At some point, he had a huge crisis. He performed a surgery with lanterns and touchlights. Okay, Emma or CV order of the Volta under Jerry John Rawlings. We've had amazing individuals who have contributed amazing things to a society in diverse ways, in very difficult circumstances. Can you call a Sekwa chips compound be? We share quino crown now and see a cocoa areas. Quino, but the chips compound is working. Now who send your mufa mamino on some raft they had created to take her all the way there to have a baby. Now me bisa midwife, look at me say, sack chip compound inti maternal mortality or enya de omuti because nsuo ho na more donors be bromo ba ho ebe ejuma mo also things that they need at least for basic delivery purposes. So don't underestimate the value of even rural interventions. What I say, but you see, our opponents didn't understand. Now we almost cast almost to almost salary, so then almost somebody chips compound me boy. And know what he wants them. Share Ghana no enya dia nipa bako can bring us all the solutions we require. But me omampenyi obe kampa obe bi na kuma aye juma mai oye modest. Che Mr. Mahama what did that? Say Mr. Mahama idi yesika akotam private jet etututu kwai. And I send the minister paper catch us Mr. Mahama it was so changey edwari in the skies. What be that? Na me if you see her me who has walked in these very large spaces
in a store,
the modesty and humility for John Dramani Mahama.
Tours are how do I say listening tour now? As you said, 12 as we speak. Baby, Obeko Biano or the account or 24-hour economy.
Yes.
Your opponent says
yes. Waka constitutional review amendment process no say it to be completed.
Number of ministers
will be at least just about 60 or senior ministers. I don't expect any ex-gratia. I may say even some of our ministers at the time were totally opposed to ex-gratia, and so this is kind of what I say. It wasn't so much. If you're going to be in a position for 4 years, for 8 years, ex-gratia genuinely will not do much for you. But ask a question. Time now. Framers of 1992 Constitution, Eddie ex gratia, Huasem, Eddie 2 Constitution. Now your population, we should Article 71 office holders now. And I am a lawyer, I know this. Look at the numbers. And the Supreme Court, how many judges do we have? 20 and counting. In Tiwusha, even the numbers have gone up. But ask yourself, categories, are they still deserving 67 years after independence? These are things we need to look at. There are other ways in which we can build pensions into persons who are entitled under Article 71. Have we explored all these options? Some of these proposals, they are very necessary. Times are changing.
But I'm sure when you mentioned the ex-gratia, you heard. Some people said, now why did we pay? So why are you now making it look like and they are all baby now?
Unfortunately,
and he responded.
Unfortunately and regrettable. If we are saying now, former presidents, and when you look at in America, for example, former presidents have come from very wealthy homes, very rich individuals, but they still have entitlements. The state will take care of your health, will pay you a certain pension, would give you security, would help you travel when you need to, when you're unwell. It is important that we regularize some of these things for our former leaders. Persons who have contributed enormously to our society. Sure, my sister. And yes, and then we are also, there's so much graft and corruption. And yeah, President, if your office, they 20,000, 30,000. Seriously, go to the banks and see individual paychecks. Go to private institutions, call public commission, see the salaries that they receive. GMPC, GP, co-share CEOs, almost salaries. I told you can get one CEO. The deputies grab by 5, by 6. Look at the amounts they draw. You see, what we don't want is a society that is not equitable, or one that inequities will cause people to get poorer. What we have, Cecilia, in this administration is a huge injustice. Our poor have gotten poorer. You see, let's continue to advocate, say, pay leaders. You want some here, Obia wants them here. What I say? Now you can make catch Mahama say, hey, be 6 months near crime, who is Danti, or so people with the make me pocket money, Ghana Eddie. What I say? Well, look, he has huge burdens, huge financial shiny light bill cry. What I say? Now, penny life, they say, many we can't live like them. So people who depend on them, whether you are in office or out of office, people
they still come.
You should see the demands. Nipa omuka to your crown, ba omucho petition Ebrem Samahama. I uncle can want him. And I told the baby, your copy be na toss now be in the photographer.
Yes.
Operational petition aba. Oh, he's our MD here, he's our CEO here, he's not paying us, he's not. Think about it. People are struggling. When there is,
meaning even out of office, he's still working.
Look, all the time. Because think about it, his voice goes very far. It's like when you want people to hear and you want to advocate for something very positive, who do you go to? You go to the Chief's Palace, you go to the Queen Mothers. So naturally, you would come to people who have been served in public office, that you know them, that you have access. And we have an office that has an open door policy. So journalists, media people, also people come there to share their views. Share, my sister.
So, Madam Joyce, yes. In spite of challenges now, you are telling us that Mahama had a clear, good plans for Ghana. Now he was developing Ghana some way, somehow. Are you saying, sir, Mahama free office as a Ghana Konechi Kakra?
Oh, Ghana Konechi Bebre, and Kakra, and Name Church Munu. Share, for example, schools and IAC, for example. E-blocks, we have abandoned them.
Almost
now me say, it me say do chim the constituency. Bosomche. School no. Ujina kwa ni sokora na wo hwe school. Nso ko hwe. Me who media person be wo amanonko school. Enko picture bro. She, if we don't start to demand continuity from our leaders, every break. Me say Terminal 3, and maybe I can now come was Terminal 3 na a 10 key project from an international investor. Omo mobile siko mo dibano rules a toso cry doso. Enya dia obeti mi dia yaka na say you know what I mean? They usually state to state with huge insurance clauses. Enti sa asika no entimi fa nya basabasa. Omoba what they are asked to do, the plans they have, the designs they have, you follow accordingly. In fact, they come with anti-corruption clauses even. Because when you say Europe there, they don't joke with graft. Until we are European investor, your country will actually hold you responsible. That is why they have all the happening in terms of aviation industry. You see, we take a lot of things and we take them lightly. Shekrum Hayete. Under NDC, we expanded KI.
Kutuka International Airport.
Terminal 3. Tamale Airport got a huge upgrade and got Brazilian funds from an Exim Bank to continue the project. Same for Kumasi in particular. Kumasi, even to get the land, I was at the Ministry of Transport for a very long time. Securing the land was no joke because of encroachment, because of paying compensation, and many other reasons why getting the land, even for construction, wasn't easy.
So MPP cannot claim Tamale or Kumasi as their own.
If we live in a fair world, when you claim something as your own, what do you mean? The people who use the facility, they are conscious of what happened, and when they were using it, they knew what it looked like and what it looks like now. When we had that flight takeoff from Tamale, for example, all the way to Mecca, was that not a beautiful thing? Did you see people in the subsequent years lying around the compounds of the Hajj village waiting for flights? No. Did you see the congestion that we used to face even at our one international airport because of flights going to Hajj? No. All we did at the time was to introduce what? Aeronautical lightning systems so that in the evenings flights can move. Look, our airports shut down, especially the local ones, the regional ones, by 5 p.m. So if you get a flight that is delayed even by an hour or 2 hours, you will struggle to land because air control will no longer be available to help you land. These are the things that we need to start to incorporate into our system. What you need to do for an airport, I studied transportation, build efficiency. What was Mr. Mahama's ambition for those airports, for example? It was to create an aviation hub. Go to Ethiopia and see what Ethiopian is doing. Imagine leasing out the whole of Terminal 2, for example, to a flight, an aircraft, an airline like Ethiopian or Emirates or any of these very huge brands. It will be fully utilized. It will be so efficient that you will have cargo throughput increasing, you will have passenger throughput increasing, so you wouldn't have to come and charge $20 per passenger. Have you seen the number of passengers who are using the local flights? Cost of it is unimaginable. Travel within Canada. Nature ticket air. Travel within the US. What we thought ticket crowd, we thought ticket $10 crowd. Ekow from one state to the other.
Yeah.
Travel within the UK. Any other parts of the world. Nebra Ghana Beshe. Why should the tickets in and out of Tamale cost you 3,000 Ghana cedis, 2,500 a day for an hour flight, for a 45-minute flight? It's unconscionable. It means that your economy is not being run in the way that it should. Ghana competition crowd doesn't work because the economy, the curve, it's not a normal curve. Sad theories na normal church your economic class no
almost say that was caused by Russia and COVID.
What to say Russia hokra, have you heard? In terms of arms production, in terms of wheat production, in terms of agri, nothing has changed though. Ukraine hokra almost say omoye war no. Have you heard that agri has suffered? My sister, let's stop nitpicking. I think that we need to reset the way we see our leaders. You know, I look back on it when I see all the receipts from the past, tweets, presentations, promises, pledges. If you really want to hold Akufo-Addo and Bawumia accountable, the only way you can do it is that tomorrow morning, let's hold elections. Call an early election like they do in other jurisdictions and vote them out of office.
Interesting.
Yes, as simple as that.
interesting. But your premium 24-hour economy policy, is it the only premium way to solving Ghana's issue, or you have other ones that we don't even know?
My brother, if you can improve governance, if you can improve procurement processes, if you can improve on the economy, what is it we need? Look at where interest rates are. We've rationalized all our banks with huge sums of money. Can you imagine that those monies were put back into those banks to make them liquid? Even the banks that are standing today, go and check. They are all struggling. Do you know how many jobs were lost in that process? They were citizens of Ghana too. So if you talk about anything, that will not only improve the economy, but a bit ma ejuma about Ghana. Listen to the conversation. Mr. Port, look, an economist who came to work in Ghana from Zambia told me 5 years ago, said Ghana ufa commercial bank, ufa port authority, ufa airport company, ufa GMPC. He had the ECG or 5 companies. If we can run them efficiently, effectively, senior abrochre ni nyoma sa companies they operator. Nobody in Ghana will be looking for money. No, you won't be chasing dollars. I'm telling you, David. Do you know that companies today have procurement, or more called procuring way past even 2028? Go and investigate. Why do you think people can't get jobs? Is that the top is closed and refusing to open up? Is that the inefficiencies are the reasons why we are all suffering? Growth is stagnated because of debt.
2028.
Debt.
As we speak.
National Cathedral here. Sasikano. Kawufa $2 million biya ko share 275 constituencies. Do you know what that will do for the local economy?
But they give them $1 million per constituency in their first day.
They never receive that money. You can cross-check. Never. No constituency received $1 million. None. That was just a hollow promise. It was a lie. It was fake. You see?
So former president would not continue the cathedral.
My sister, where is the money even in Ghana today?
They need $250 million to complete.
If you've already sunk over 400 million, it is not even logical to say that 200 million will help you complete it. The foundation alone costs 450 million. There is no way that logically, economically, viably, even 300 million can complete it, because it means then that how many holes are you going to dig? And how much more will it cost us? Look, we are on the cusp of an economic meltdown, and already living in a country where economy and costing will be economic. What's it?
So with all
announcements,
these difficulties,
yes,
the current situation we find ourselves, our economy, maybe enemy. What do you think in 4 years? And that's what people ask. What do you think in 4 years the former president will be able to achieve?
My sister, even in a day, if a leader wants change, they can achieve it in a day. You know, we overrate times in office. If you spend 50 years in office and you make no impact, it will be just that. If you spend 1 day in office and you make the necessary changes, reforms, and impact, people will appreciate it. We've had leaders who were not even in office for that long, but there are things about their times in office that we remember. Today, we still talk about the UGMC. We're still talking about the airports. We're still talking about many facilities. Even the e-blocks, we're still talking about them. Why are we talking about them? If they hadn't been started, if they hadn't been invented, who will be having these conversations? Look, leadership is key.
And all these things was done within 4 and some few.
Absolutely. I said even in a day, a leader can make a difference. Sometimes look at some of these your private institutions, media houses in particular. As soon as you get a new general manager, what happens? There's a totally renewed energy. Sometimes change is important because we expect that the new leader will breathe new life.
But this is
effectiveness. That is what we are looking for.
But this is an economy where our debt to GDP is way above 700 million Ghana cedis and stuff. You collateralize our Get Fund and what have you.
Everything.
So, Mr. Mahama,
if we can recover all the stolen monies first and foremost, if we demand accountability fully, if we are able to get them to release all that they have stolen and put in empty properties that you and I will never live in.
In which areas?
In all sorts of areas across the country. across the country. What is happening in Komfanochi is not it's not out of the ordinary. It's happening across the country. There are even rumors that the police buildings across from I think is it the seat of government apparently have actually also been sold to a private developer. I haven't checked whether it's just a rumor or it's true or not. Absolutely. Yes, it's going on. Absolutely. So my brother, it is not just about what GDP has always been. Look, what is GDP if the economy is enlarging, if the economy is growing, if there's business for everybody, if people have jobs? Before you say Jack, even the rate of GDP to output will actually be closing. The World Bank posited that in 2017, Ghana's economy was going to grow by 8%. They touted government's homegrown solutions as being reason for this change, and of course, the oil fields that were coming on stream. What happened to all that money? So when you hear all these billions being thrown around and bandied about and wasted, it is those monies that they wasted. Why? You bring a finance minister who is a gambler, literally believes in borrowing, gambled all of our resources away through excessive and unnecessary borrowing, huge transactional costs and fees, totally unnecessary. I told you I think better in English than I do in
What said the former finance minister? Now you're Adam.
Oh, Adam, there as for injury time goal. They say when you say no, it can either take you there or to even make it worse for you until no the now on share your bit me ya or be share and here for amamia. Measure so be because on Africa. When I talk about the type of poverty that we are used to, I'm sure he is a better person to appreciate it than most people. Now, Nyawa kono krade or che ho krade do. Now, in fact, I even asked, Uncle was any pass Accra a finance minister. The answer is no. She Kwesibuche was successful.
Why now, okay?
Keno Foriata. Look, when you own a bank, sometimes conflict of interest and Americano, you know, I enjoy what goes into these laws that we have. Every time you hear about a law, you hear about a regulation, you hear about an ethic of any profession, ask what is the rationale behind it. What is the raison d'etre? And here, because what you say background now, then ebema what you say we intina sadio. Obonika say conflict of interest to nature say. It say mini wo say sisters na ye nyina ye ko ye djuma World Bank for example. Bibi a meye bia e ade a meba be ka kire. Bibi a be hia obia na bibi enti ho ya me force say me ya ma. Nti important say mini wo ye sisters and she say ye be djuma in the same place. What you say? It was a good reason. We share ethics who were banker now we ejuma of business finance catch me say bank loan ba wo de be coin krom ha banks nyina ejuma nko so biemo mo 22 banks be bree e dey na obey nti ejuma bi obeti bi I call the bank say it's not surprising. Insurance bi I call enterprise enye surprising. It is not easy so obey finance minister bank e wo dey now because your business no enye nko bi ho na ode company no embre because we are finance minister. Obisa no unfa no finance ministry.
Would you have a manifesto?
Oh, certainly. But of course, in 2016, Akufo-Addo and Bawumia, they won without a manifesto. They had a list on a sheet of paper, and all they doing was reading it out to you guys, and you were all screaming, ranting, and raving and following them. When you don't think through things, you flop. We have a manifesto that is well thought through, that we've gone the length and breadth of this country, spoken to trade associations, professional associations, various groups, market women, transport owners, transportation drivers, proper mates and drivers, not the driver banza and the mates who don't know how to even hold the steering wheel. No, not those ones. Not the confused drivers and mates. No. We are thinking very lucidly, very clearly. We want to continue with our People's Manifesto. We want to enhance it. We even want to create this environment where people can own policies even in the manifesto. So, for example, if you brought me something regarding what we can do for market women, it is your responsibility to hold us accountable for that innovation that you brought. And that is what we are expecting. What you are saying. So, it is not easy, my brother. Let me tell you something. Look at the effort that Mr. Mahama made, for example, even when our budgetary constraints started, when crude oil prices tumbled, when our 10 projects were about to come on stream and hadn't come on stream, when the dollar to cedi at the time was how much? 3.4
Before he left office?
Yes, it was almost 4 cities when he left office. Check.
Four
Yes,
cities, 20
yes,
pesos.
yes. Today, try going to buy the dollar. It is 13.5. Have you tried to buy a gallon of petrol recently? Look, we are living way above our means. We are forcing our citizens to become magicians, to borrow even from the recesses of their hearts to survive. How do you think those who don't find themselves around this table are actually coping?
What do you think caused his loss? Because at that time, when have you assessed it? When you get up, as I said, you see a road here. You are talking about some of these things that hospital, rage, UGMC,
Circle markets and Dubai market,
airports near you lost.
Let me tell you something that a strategist at the time told me. Catch me say, when your opponents want to hit you, they'll hit you where it hurts most. Say omudi ewi sem corruption in sem, but more projects at the time when you least expect it. Just when Doomsaw was biting and crippling. Look, Mr. Mahama was so frustrated at some point. She said, "We'll fee Ghana. Independent power producer da. You haven't even tried it. Even the infrastructure you don't have. The land to put them on you don't have. Even the connectivity you don't have. The technology you don't have. The experts you don't have. You are also facing what? An economic crunch. And then you have to go out to international markets and find a sustainable solution to a crippling power outage. If you ask me personally, from where I sit, half of the reasons why we lost was because of the crippling power outages that greeted us.
The Doomsaw.
It was not with you.
It was, it could not have been because it was also partly the cause. Remember, Mr. Mahama had also gone through 9 months of an election petition when you were not even certain. Imagine you go through this grueling campaign, you win an election freely and fairly. Your opponent lays into you immediately. For 9 months, the nation was spellbound. Look, that petition damaged the government in a way that most of us didn't even imagine before it ended. And then you come into office 6 months later. What rears his head? Crippling power crisis. My sister, few men, fewer leaders. Leaders have gone out for a lot less. This was huge. And I think sometimes Mahama deserves even some empathy. Did you ever hear at the time any of our opposition contenders even offer to find help for the crippling power crisis? They blamed entirely everything. Look, they took all of us for our emotions. They took all of us for our businesses. They literally weaponized Doomsaw in a way that, have you forgotten, we had actors and actresses, wired Ghanaians who were on the streets with lanterns. It was a very depressing period. It affected everybody, each and every one of us. There were times when you find that even people who were serving in government and had generators, for example, whenever the lights went off, they decided not to turn them on. Because you didn't want your neighbors to insult your government even more. You didn't want people driving past your house to say the whole street is in darkness and you have lights. I'm telling you, it was a difficult, shut your eyes for a minute and imagine that one individual had to grapple with all this and then deal with a hostile opposition. I have never seen a more acrimonious campaign as we saw in 2016.
You have two nodness, quote unquote, on the ballot paper, 2024. Do you think that will affect your chances?
Oh, I think that, we have two Ghanaians. That's how I see it. Two Ghanaian gentlemen on the ballot. I have no doubt in my mind that Mr. Mahama stands very tall, largely because the other gentleman spent all his time telling lies to prop up his boss. When Mr. Mahama partnered Professor Mills, if you remember, Professor Mills had Mohamed Mumuni, fantastic lawyer. He had also had a shadow minister at the time, a citizen vigilante, and then he had John Dramani Mahama. You all heard the campaign at the time. Mr. Mahama took all the debates, for example. All the public debates were led by him. But I don't remember him telling us stories that didn't exist, telling lies just because they wanted to be in power. I don't recall. The difference is that Mr. Mahama is a very honest man. You know, sometimes when things are going wrong, like for example, Dumso, I remember there was a day when a colleague of mine called me and said, JB, you guys should get Monkope spokesperson. So that is his job, you know, so that it will take the pressure off. But you know, Mr. Mahama felt so responsible. And I remember every morning, you know, there were phone calls looking for people to help, not once for all the expertise that our present owners of government claim to have. Did you ever hear that any energy expert from the folds of MPP woke up in the morning and said, oh, Mr. Mahama, please, you know, I have this solution. I can help you with wind turbines. I can develop a solar system that will improve. No. They literally carried out a hatred campaign and caused the nation to rise up against a man who spent sleepless nights trying to find solutions to our challenges. So
according to you, honesty will ride against lies.
It has started already. But people know now. And Mr. Mahama said it, look, I don't want to promise too much. I don't want to do the things that I know I cannot deliver. I want Ghanaians to help me to deliver on whatever it is that I think we need at this time. He has promised to complete all the incomplete projects. Those are taxpayers' money is being wasted. If those projects are completed, my sister, they will not be MPP. You see, the reason why the present administration thinks the way they do is because we gave them so much leverage. Tell me, who didn't believe all the tales that Akufo-Addo and Bawumia were telling? Who didn't believe that they intended to do much better than Mr. Mahama and the NDC? Majority of Ghanaians believe it. What we forget is that something very historic happened in 2020. After winning with over 900,000 votes, close to 1 million votes, in 2020 they struggled even to win that election. The question is why? Where did all the votes go? They squandered their victory long before 2020. By then, people had begun to realize that something wasn't right. You see, social media is very powerful. The media generally. Why? You guys used to host Bawumia's lectures in the course of traffic. When people are stuck. Sometimes I remember whenever there was going to be any gridlock, you find that very evening you see adverts all over the place. My sister, since Dr. Bawumia became flag bearer, have you heard him? I haven't heard. Grant one interview. The man used to go to Peace FM. He used to go to Kokoroko. He used to go to City FM. He has run a whole flag bearer contest and won. And didn't even win well in his own backyard. Just a little above 60%. What happened to all the noise he was making for the MPP? He was everybody's darling boy. He had a magic wand that when he enters, once he's sworn in, our economy dear. Boko sana diachi.
So my final question. Maybe some, but I said I didn't get the answer
you wanted.
Very clear. Yeah. So your 24-hour economy, is it a game changer?
Oh, it is. Absolutely. My friend asked me a question, JB, why do all your shops be by 6 no be upon? Na nkrofo mo light is on almost on bed. Na transportation if you have a 24-hour economy, for example, it depends on a number of things. A modally complementary transport system. People must know that when they close from work, there's transport for them to go home, that the transportation is also safe. People must know that if they keep their businesses open, there's enough infrastructure in terms of electricity, lights. And the AGI spoke beautifully about that. They expect that there will be security provided by the state. The government has said that for the first time, we'll be regulating this event. Busy internet, no more BNO, no more time there. Me, I worked there for about almost 2 years. We had a 3-term shift. 8 to 8, 8 to 12, and then the midnight people will come and close. They were almost like doctors and nurses. Where are all those businesses now? When GCNet first opened and started working in the port, they were running a 24-hour shift. Why did they stop? Go to the airport shell that opens like till late. Ask them why they reduce their number of hours. The state must contribute something to make a 24-hour economy successful.
Do you think government now is afraid of that policy?
Well, you see, government is afraid of its own shadow because every policy that they claimed was going to change our lives has failed to deliver. The only policy that they promise is on stealing, is on corruption, is on cronyism, is on nepotism. Whatever government can do in terms of a new government to improve the lot of the citizens of Ghana is a welcome addition. We must all support it. Look, what is it that we need? People need electricity. People need security. Do you think that if not for partisanship, we can't have a larger police force, a larger military, a larger security service? They are there. But because of recent, deeply partisan circumstances, my sister, very well qualified people cry, unya cry, you won't find any way to enter. You see them decent young boys, qualified, but because you have the wrong name, you come from the wrong location, or largely you don't know anybody in government, you will never make it. And this is a government that has literally taken winner takes all as if it is a mantra. Nobody else. Go out there and ask. Go onto the streets. 1 in 3 women is completely unemployed in Ghana. Ghana Statistical Service, I didn't say it. Our poor have gotten poorer. How do you think they are faring? The gender ministry is where social protection is. Look at the level of leadership. Porous, poor, non-existent. And yet that ministry exists to protect people in the lower income brackets. Look, the challenges are so many that the conversation would not end. But like I said, sorry, I think better in English than I do in Tree, but I'm learning. The Tree is improving.
I must say you're very fluent. And you are indeed a communicator. The job now the amount. And when you manage the amount. We are normally call 2024 elections. They are meant to be. Is it the same song or you will change it?
My sister, it's not a time for songs.
It's a time for work.
Yes.
I was your governess in the day at the Joyce Bawah Mogtari. Wakasama Omanpeyin Dada John Dramani Mahama.
Onua 95.1 FM. 95.1 FM. Yeah,